Welcome to the Nifty Chicks. In this episode, we had the insider track with senior reporter for Yahoo Finance, Jennifer Schonberger. We discuss the current market conditions, future of crypto, what it's going to take to get more women into crypto, and her experience being a badass chick in the world of finance. Let's do this. Welcome to the Nifty Chicks. Hi, Minty Cell. What's going on?
Oh, just another day in paradise and doing some planning for next week.
Whoop, whoop. Oh, and what is next week?
There's this thing. It's just this little small event that's happening in New York. I think in NFT NYC.
Hell yeah. And we're going to be on a panel and it's going to be so much fun.
Yeah. And the day this episode comes out will be the day we are speaking at NFT NYC.
That's right. So at this point, if it's going to be aired, then we will have already had our panel. So hopefully we are seeing you at this very moment while this is airing out with a Web She event. That's where we're going to be heading after our panel. So hopefully we'll be seeing you there.
Yes. Join us.
That's right.
Amazing.
Yep.
So I'm really excited about our guest today, Jennifer Schonberger. She is amazing. She is a journalist for Yahoo Finance. And I feel like this is a little bit of a different episode than what we normally do. It was funny because I was on chatting with her before you came on. And I was like, I have a feeling you and Jen FT are going to get along really well because you're both journalists and you're both in finance. So
great. That's right.
So I didn't really talk very much during this episode.
And I really didn't want to commandeer the interview, but I just had so many questions to ask her. And she's awesome.
I totally understood. And I knew that it was going to be a lot of you and her having conversations because some of that stuff is just a little bit up here for me.
And that's okay. That's okay.
Yeah. It was great. It was a great conversation. So I say we go ahead and get to it.
Let's do it.
Welcome to the Nifty Chicks. We are excited to have Jennifer Schonberger here from Yahoo Finance. And I'm really excited to speak with you today, Jennifer, because I think you're going to bring something to the Nifty Chicks that we haven't really had before. And that is like a deep dive into what is happening in the world of finance and crypto and all that. So give us a little bit of your background and your story.
Oh, thanks so much for having me. It's great to be on with you ladies. Rah, girl power finance. So my background. Okay, I don't know how far back we want to go here.
We don't have to go that far back.
I would just say that I got interested in finance because I was introduced by my dad. And I decided to give it a go in college. And I thought it was really interesting, but always wanted to be a journalist. So decided to combine the two. And I've been a financial journalist for years now. And I love it. I love talking to experts on a daily basis, really learning about markets and the economy, different asset classes now that I've started to cover crypto. And really just taking that information and sharing it to better inform the public so they can make better informed decisions. It's a real privilege.
Great. That's great.
Yes.
That's great. You must be, awesome. So I actually studied journalism too. And, some of the aspects of you're constantly learning, constantly like expanding your horizons. And I found the journalism world to be very humbling because you're not the one to know the answers. You're supposed to be absorbing the right information. So super cool. And I love the fact, like you just said, women in finance. There's not enough of us here. There's just
no, we need more. We need more women in crypto too.
Yes, totally agree. Are you seeing any sort of shift in more women coming to the crypto space?
So I think it's still largely men at this point. There's an education gap that needs to be filled. And at Yahoo Finance, we are certainly striving to do that. And I guess my pitch would be to women, like, it's never too late to start learning. And we're still very much in the early innings of crypto right now. And yes, we are in a bear market. And I'm not saying go jump in 2 feet, but it's a good time to start learning about the space and learning how, maybe if that's a right fit for your investment portfolio, or just how the technological applications could shape our economy and how that could be played in the future.
That's great. I think one of the things that you touched on is an educational gap for women stepping into the space. We have found the same as well on our personal journeys into the NFT space. You know, we and Minty Sell and I always talk about the fact that when we were new to the space and we were Googling, you know, how to set up a MetaMask, how to navigate Discord, all these kind of new tools and resources for the crypto space, it was always dudes or bros on these videos explaining,
bro.
right?
Yeah.
And so I just love the fact that you specifically and Yahoo Finance is really trying to be a resource to women who are new to the space and who might be a little intimidated by all that there is to learn. So
yeah, and we've got like 9,000 crypto ticker offerings. And we recently just launched what we're calling a cultural asset index. And it's kind of the first of its kind. It tracks more than 1,000 assets that represent just shy of, I think, 500 million in total market cap. And it's like everything from like trading cards to sports memorabilia, securitized NFTs. I think the thinking is perhaps laying out an index eventually to try to track NFTs, but I think there hasn't really been anything that's tracked collectibles before. And so Yahoo Finance is really trying to go into the educational foray, and, you know, reporters like me trying to educate through our reporting as well.
I love that. That's going to be so helpful. I think that's great.
It's needed, right? I think that one of the reasons, you know, we're seeing obviously a huge drop in NFTs right now in values alongside the rest of the crypto space.
Yes,
but I think that a lot of people are losing money right now because they didn't do the proper due diligence. They didn't understand what they were investing in, not unlike what happened during the financial crisis. And so this is really a teachable moment. You know, people need to understand who is putting out these NFTs. Just because a famous person puts it out doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to perform well. And what is the vision for that? And is there a community around it? These are just some of the basics, I feel like, that people can start with to try to do some research.
Yeah, 100%. And you talked about
it's so true. I was just going to say, we just talked about this in the news. The scammer inventing Anna, it's putting out NFTs, and it's like, okay, she's a known scammer. She's in jail for scamming, yet people are going to go buy these NFTs from her. Like it.
Well, if that's not a sign of a top in mania and a bubble, I don't really know what is.
Right.
So, like that takes .com 2000 to a whole nother level.
Right. Actually, I wanted to ask your opinion on that. So you touched on the markets, right? So obviously, anybody who's listening to this episode about the time that we are recording this and airing it knows that the markets have taken a pretty steep downturn. People who've been in the markets have seen their account drop, 80%, some even more than that. And so I wanted to get your opinion or kind of thoughts on, some of the, is this, I've heard a couple of different opinions on this being good for crypto, because it's going to shake out a lot of the kind of the people who really, exactly. So I want to hear from you now that, because you've got such an awesome perspective, because you get to talk to so many people. I want to hear from you. You've taken all these thoughts, your synthesis on like what's going on in the markets. I know it's a big question.
Yeah, that's starting from like the top down, 64,000 foot level. I mean, this is a bear market cycle, right? And crypto is a market just like stocks and bonds. So we are in a bear market cycle, and there are high correlations between crypto, which is clearly proven to be a risk asset, along with stocks. And I think that so long as the Federal Reserve continues to raise interest rates to combat inflation, and you're seeing continued volatility in the stock market, recession risk is on the table. I think that you're going to continue to see volatility, and there will be pressure on crypto. To your point about shaking out the losers, of course, anytime you have a market cycle like this, it's survival of the fittest. And the cream will rise to the top. To borrow a phrase from Warren Buffett, you always figure out who's been skinny dipping when the tide runs out, right? The thing is that crypto is a little bit of a different asset class than stocks because they don't generate cash flows. It's based on a lot on sentiment, what the next person is willing to pay for that asset. So I think that differentiates it a little bit. It makes it a little bit harder to call in terms of when we come out of what people are calling a potential crypto winter, which is, as I said, I think it's just a bear market cycle. I think when things start to turn and sentiment starts to turn is probably when you start to see things sprout up again. You see the green sprouts, but I think it's going to be a tough haul again, so long as the Fed is raising rates.
Yeah. I think one of the things that was really surprising to me stepping into a little bit more of the crypto space a year or two ago, and specifically the NFT, is how correlated it is to the equity market. My gosh, for so many reasons, it's so different. It's like, I mean, Goldman didn't even call it an asset class for quite some time until recently. They actually categorized they say the words asset class associated with crypto. So like, help me understand kind of from your perspective, why there's such a strong correlation when it's a completely different asset class.
Yeah, it is a completely different asset class. Like I said, it doesn't have the same features of a stock, right? It doesn't generate revenue. It doesn't generate profits. There's no cash flow, right?
Very little fundamental analysis can be done.
Very little fundamental analysis. It's more like a commodity, really, especially when you think of it in the vein of like a Bitcoin, right? Because it's supply and demand. It's scarcity, right? So in theory, if you have finite supply and demand is strong, then sure, Michael Saylor will be right. It will go into the millions, but it remains to be seen, what the believers are there. But in terms of like what differentiates it as an asset class, it's so nascent right now. It's so new. And so I think we need to see whether it is going to be used as alternative forms of payment. That may be something that we see more adopted internationally, I think, than domestically eventually. Or if it's more about when you bet on crypto, the technological applications. And what do I mean there? I mean applying blockchain to the financial sector so that you're settling trades faster. Right now, it takes 3 days to settle a trade. If you're able to settle that instantaneously, then you get back a lot of that capital that's being tied up. And so then you create greater velocity of money that goes faster and more economic growth as a result of that. And maybe like on the NFT side, it's using that technology to underpin, using it as bundles of rights, like to protect IP, like songs. So, or smart contracts, right? Like maybe when you sign a real estate deal, it's not these PDFs that we email back and forth to each other. It's a smart contract, which is essentially the underpinning technology.
Right. Yeah. It's fascinating to watch kind of this, as you say, the bear market, the bear trend happening. And I think one of the sad things is right now we're in an awesome spot to bring more people into the specific world of NFTs. And because there's a lot of opportunity that's coming from the world of NFTs, but at the same time, we've got people who are like, whoa, I'm not touching that with the 10-foot pole because the Terra Luna, crisis and crash, the Celsius, where people are not able to withdraw their own money. And there's a lot of reason to be scared and very skeptical and very cautious about this. And especially for women who are generally naturally more risk averse, how do we help encourage people to explore with caution, but explore? Don't be so afraid. How do we do that?
Yeah, well, I would say right now, I mean, I wouldn't jump in the equity market now either, right? So I'm not so sure I would recommend like go into crypto right now unless you are willing to risk losing money. If you
Right.
have money that you are willing to just play around with, and if you lose it, you're fine financially, then and you should consult your financial advisor. Let me be clear. Like, so, but if you're
This
willing
is
to go
not
into
financial advice.
right.
This is not
If you're
financial.
if you're willing to
Make
play
that
with
very
like
clear.
$100 or something like that, just as a learning tool to facilitate, like by all means, and in general, people should never invest more money than they're willing to lose in worst
Right.
case scenario. But doing the due diligence, as we talked about at the beginning of this interview, reading Yahoo Finance, going to resources even like Coinbase has a lot of the basics on there
Mhm.
to try to. You don't have to go far to try to dig into this stuff to understand how it works. But I think as the technology becomes more immersed over the next 5 years, people will begin to see it more and perhaps begin to get more comfortable with it. I also think what will bring people into the space is eventually when regulators put in the proper guardrails to protect investors. Because once you have that, you have more players in the space. And when you have more players, that generates more liquidity and more stability and less volatility.
Yeah.
So, and that's coming. Washington is working on that right now, but it's going to be some time. It's not going to happen this year.
So we actually just talked about this in our last episode that we recorded on regulations. And for so many people in the crypto space who are a bit anti-government, centralized, like they love the fact that everything is decentralized, or a lot of things are decentralized. Help those people understand why regulation might actually benefit this space. I know you said more players, more liquidity, but is there anything to convince people who are anti-government, anti-regulation that this is really for the better?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, let's just look at Celsius, right? We saw people who had put tons of money. There was just an article in the Wall Street Journal actually the other day about a guy who put $100,000 in, and he thought, well, yields are so low, I can get up to 18% out of
Yeah.
Celsius, right? It's a crypto lender for people who don't know, who are listening to this.
Right.
Where you donate your tokens, you give your tokens, and you get yield back on it. So with the gyrations that have been going on in the crypto markets, there have been a lot of withdrawals. And Celsius decided that we don't have the money right now, and we're putting everything on pause. And we're not going to let people get their money back. So if there are proper rules in place that are akin perhaps, and I'm not saying that this is what they're going to do or this is the only way to protect, but if you're dealing with a typical brokerage like a Fidelity, for instance, and you hold an account and your assets are there, if Fidelity goes bankrupt, your assets are protected. You get them back. That's not the case with crypto. So with Celsius, you've lost your money if they're insolvent, which they appear to be on the path to insolvency. They have hired lawyers. So I think once those rules are put in place, that will create more of a safety mechanism to protect people who there's no rules over what we call custody, basically. So I think that's part of it. And I think that we really need to tackle hacks as well.
Yeah, it's a scary place
It's a
in
problem.
crypto. It really is.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, interesting that you say that. We talk almost every news segment that we do on our weekly news segment. There's another major hack or scam.
It's like, oh, they were hacked. Oh, they were hacked. Oh, they were scammed. Oh, they were. Somebody stole 200.
Yeah, we really. I mean,
in
and
crypto.
if you look at President Biden's executive order, he really has tasked the entire government with looking in how to regulate crypto. Right? It's not just the market regulators. It's not just the SEC and the CFTC. It's looking at the intelligence agencies as well, because obviously this is an issue as well. Ransomware attacks continue to persist.
Yeah, I think the regulation is good from I mean, ultimately they're there. I believe that, regulatory law is there to protect us. Hopefully, that is the main goal. And I think if people feel a little bit more safe with their investments, right? These are hard-earned dollars that people have made, and they're making a choice, and so it's important to them. It's not. We say, like, so many people, always only invest money that you're willing to lose. But for most people, they're like, I can lose $100. But then when they actually do lose $100, they're like, oh crap, like that's big. So it's amazing, especially when that $100 grows to $1,000 within a couple of days. And you're like, wow, this is amazing. And it's crashing down just like something did. That was literally perfect timing.
I know.
Oh, this is going in the bloopers for sure.
Speaking about crashing. You're on a good train
though. That was my new ring light just falling over. Well,
oh my gosh, it is so funny.
Now. Oh my gosh. So, and now my watch is talking to me.
He's British too, it sounds like.
Oh yeah, how do you not have my
gosh? Okay, so this won't be a weird transition at all. That my lighting is all different, but whatever.
It'll be great.
Yeah.
So when that $100 grows to $1,000 within a couple of days and then comes crashing to a zero, people start to get a sense of, when they see that $1,000, like, oh, this is now my money. Almost like the casino when you're like playing with the house's money. One of my personal methods is anytime I'm up, I put a couple of chips in my pocket so that I've always bringing back what I put in, and then I'm playing with the house's money. And then if I lose it, I lose it. But not a lot of people have that mentality, and this is like really serious. A lot of people are losing a substantial of their net worth and their investments and hard-earned dollars, and it's a tough thing to see and to kind of be that kind of outside party, because I'm fortunate enough to not have been super impacted by that, but a lot of people are, and my heart is going out to people who have, the Terra Luna issues
and Terra Luna Celsius. And well, I think that's, to your point, why the Labor Department has, I don't know if you saw, but Fidelity is looking to offer Bitcoin as part of 401k plans.
I did not see that.
The Labor Department is pushing back against that and looking at rules to even not allow that, because they feel that it's too volatile of a asset class right now for people to put their hard-earned savings into retirement. We'll see what happens. So, there's a smaller.
I'm going to play devil's advocate here for a second, because there's also a part of me that I understand protecting people, right? But if I go, like you were just talking about, Jenna, if you go to the casino, you're able to spend whatever you want. Put as much down. This is
America. You need to be able to make your own decisions. It's free markets. Yeah, agreed. Yeah.
When the government tries to control if I can buy Bitcoin or not, why? Like, what's the difference between me buying Bitcoin or going to the casino and putting $1,000 down on red?
Absolutely, 100%. I hear that argument, and I think it's a prudent point, and it's striking a balance, and it's like reading the fine print, basically. I just think that there needs to be guardrails put in place, investor protections, so that it's not, I guess, to borrow a phrase from Gary Gensler, the wild, wild west. So, and we have that with our stock market today, right? People go in and they can lose a lot of money in the stock market too, but there are rules in place. And so I think that's really what we're getting at. But to your point, I don't know. It's a philosophical argument as well. Does the government have a right to come in and say, no, you can't put Bitcoin in your 401k?
Right.
Yeah.
So we're talking a lot about what's going on in the world today. I would love to hear from you, and I'm sure you hear every sort of idea and hypothesis. Like, where do you think the world of crypto, or even NFTs specifically, is going? Where do you think the future is?
So I think that NFTs, their applications, as I kind of alluded to earlier, are here to stay. I think that the applications have so many immense opportunities. We can't even think of all of them right now.
Right.
Like ticketing is one, for instance, that we're starting to see, where tickets become even more valuable as a collectible, not just as a way to enter an event. It also becomes a way to foster a community around certain things. It could be, if you're an artist, creating a community around yourself, right? And doing special giveaways and that kind of thing. It becomes also something that corporate America can adopt in the form of smart contracts. And we talked about using it as a bundle of rights for IP. Maybe one day, I don't know, do we see it applied for passports? I think MIT actually used it for diplomas.
Oh, really?
I
hadn't heard that one.
There's no shortage of potential applications, I think, for NFTs.
Well, I mean, you could even add in like driver's license, your vehicle
medical
registration.
records.
Absolutely.
Like you talked about earlier, for housing, transferring of deeds.
Real
so
estate,
many.
absolutely. Yeah. I think that there is the applications are immense. It's not just collectibles. It's not just art. It's more than that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And
so you said something before we started recording that we were like, oh, we need to record this. And so we were talking about the price of Bitcoin, because I opened up my phone and was looking at where it is. And today is June 17th. It is 12:10 Eastern time that we're recording this. And the price of Bitcoin is at 20,669 right now. You said something about 19,000, and I said, wait, do you think that's where it's going? And what are your thoughts?
Well, like I said, if I had a crystal ball,
right.
I'd be a lot richer than I am today.
Wouldn't we all?
and calling the trends in crypto, I think, is that much more difficult than even if you're a technician in the stock market calling that.
Yeah.
So let me put that disclaimer on. I do think, though, that we are going to be under pressure, as I mentioned, if the Fed is going to continue hiking rates, which I think they will. Fed Chair Powell looking at potential another 75 to 50 basis point hike next meeting. So I think that the volatility is going to continue to reign. And remember, some people will view crypto as a store of value against inflation. If the Fed's fighting inflation, inflation's coming down, then what happens? Right. And so long as you continue to see these correlations, I think, between stocks and crypto and equities, I think you will continue to see possible downward pressure.
Yeah. I agree with that.
It's difficult to call the bottom. I'm not going to make that call.
Totally is.
Yeah, I'm not going to make that call.
If you do find that crystal ball, just, throw a couple of tips over.
Throw a little bit your way.
Yeah, exactly. Give us a call.
Yeah. And I think
it is funny though, because I've actually heard that number from a few people, and I don't know
the 19,000 level.
Yeah, I've heard it from. I spoke to somebody last week, and they said that they were hearing that number from like their.
Yeah, no, it's totally possible. I got to be honest, technicians. I talk to these technicians, and they'll make these forecasts, and then the market just blows.
The market does what it does.
Right? There's so many people I talked to at the end of last year, like, it's going higher for sure. It's going higher, and we've seen what's happened. So it's very, very difficult to call. It's so nascent. Like I said, there's not enough people in the space. There's not enough liquidity right now.
Yeah. And I would love to just hear kind of, as we begin to wrap, kind of, we are at the Nifty Chicks. Our mission is to bring more women into the world of NFTs. And there's a lot of, we talked about some of the hurdles that are preventing, I think, women from flooding this space, right? Like, education, access, things like that. I would love to hear from you kind of what your experience has been in a very male dominant space, and the things that you've needed to do to make yourself heard, your voice heard, you respected in the space. I want to hear from you kind of what that journey has been like for you, because essentially all of us women in the NFT space are outnumbered by men. And sometimes we need to make ourselves heard and present. And I would love to hear, because you have an incredible, successful career at Yahoo Finance. And as a journalist, I want to hear some of the things that you have done to make yourself respected and heard.
Well, thank you for that, Jenna. I mean, I think it's even broader than NFTs, right? It's finance in general. And for me, I think that even started back when I was in undergraduate business school. I was like the one chick, since we're on Nifty Chicks, I was the one chick in male-dominated classrooms, and our method of study was modeled after Harvard Business School. Was very group-oriented, and so I was generally like the only girl amongst a group of guys. And I think the way, starting there, I learned the way to differentiate yourself is to educate yourself as much as possible, to be highly well read, and to speak up and share your opinions and stick to your opinions, not to be swayed by other people, and have find value in your own convictions and own beliefs and own conclusions based on the information that you've read and gathered. And I think once you begin to impart your perspective, which I'm sure will be unique, people will sit up and listen, whether it's male or female.
Mm-hmm. I love that.
That's awesome. Too. Yeah.
Great.
This has been fantastic. Thank you, Jennifer, so much for being here on the Nifty Chicks.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a ball. It feels like a coffee session.
Right? So what is the best way to find you, to connect with you?
I am, in terms of socials, I guess, are you asking? Yeah. I am on Twitter at Jenniferisms. And I'm
that's so cute. I love that.
And I'm on iTunes at Jennifer Tunes. I do singing and songwriting on the side, so my Insta's awesome. A little bit more singing oriented, but I do some crypto on there too. So I think that's one of the reasons why also I think NFTs are going to be a big runway in future for the music industry. So
yeah, I agree with
that's close to home. I love that.
Yeah.
That's great. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Jennifer. This has been awesome. And we will be, circling back with you. Can't wait to continue watching you and following you and your journey at Yahoo and your successful career wherever it takes you.
Oh, thank you so much. You guys have been so lovely. It's been a real pleasure to be on with you today, and hope to be on again soon.
Absolutely. Cool.
Thanks, ladies.
All right. Wow. That was awesome. Such a different perspective than what we're used to. We're talking usually to a lot of artists, and we just got a great insider scoop on the technical side of the markets. So cool. What'd you think?
I loved it. I think that she is amazing. Like you said, I would love to have her back on the show. I mean, maybe it's even like we bring her back every month or every, so often for like updates or something like that on what's going on in the market.
I love that idea. Yeah, she's obviously super knowledgeable, always talking to some of the heavy hitters in the world of crypto and the finance space. So I say, yes, let's make her kind of a little bit of regular if she's willing to and open to do that.
Yeah. So that being said, I would love to hear what you guys, our listeners, think about having Jennifer back on the show on a somewhat regular basis. Be sure to send us your feedback. Let us know what you think. You can reach us on any of our socials. We are at the Nifty Chicks. That is at the Nifty, NIFTY Chicks, CHICKS. You can find us on all the socials at the Nifty Chicks.
That's right. We want to hear from you. And as always, thank you so much, guys, for listening to the Nifty Chicks. Always remember, invest in yourself. You are worth it. Please listen carefully to the following disclaimer. Neither the host nor the guests of the Nifty Chicks podcast are acting in the capacity of financial advisors. We wish to remain transparent and impartial to the NFT community at all times, and therefore, the content provided by the Nifty Chicks hosts and guests are intended for general information purposes only. Nothing written or discussed by the Nifty Chicks hosts and guests should be construed or relied upon as investment, financial, legal, regulatory, accounting, tax, or similar advice. Nothing should be interpreted as a solicitation to invest in any cryptocurrency or NFT, and nothing herein should be construed as a recommendation to engage in any investment strategy or transaction. Please be advised that it is in your own best interest to consult with investment, legal, tax, or similar professionals regarding any specific situation and any prospective transaction decisions. You must do your own research when considering investing in cryptocurrencies or NFTs. We are simply sharing our journey with you as we learn more about the world of NFTs. Happy minting.